Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Samantha's Beauty Confessions. Today, I'm having almost like this imposter syndrome feeling today because I'm talking to Ryan Weeden, who I'm sure most of you know was the founder of Masters of Balayage, is the founder, not was. And for anyone who's not in the hair industry who may be listening, can you just like give a little bit of who you are, your background, what Masters of Balayage is, all the things?
I found hair later on in life. It was something that I never was drawn to. I ended up meeting a girl, dating a girl whose mom was a hairdresser and said, "Hey, Ryan, have you thought about this? Have you tried this?" And she knew that I had tried a whole bunch of other careers that just didn't pan out. So I was open. I'm like, I need some advice. I need to try something new. I need to keep the wheels spinning and find the right fit. And then I ended up going to hair school and really digging it, really liking it. And I feel like I had that creative side of myself, but also a business side of myself. So I was more creative, but I also had that business sense to me. So I could see the potential in doing hair and how I could potentially use hair as a vehicle to get to where I wanted to go in life and do the things I wanted to do in life. And one of those things was I wanted to be on a stage. I wanted to be an actor. I was an actor for about a year and a half in New York City. I wasn't a great actor. I couldn't make a career out of it, but that's what I aspired to be. I wanted to be the Brad Pitt. I wanted to be the Tom Cruise. I wanted to have these incredible, exciting roles. And then when I realized how far-fetched that reality was for me, I wasn't a child actor. I didn't have the chops for it. I loved it, but it was going to take a heck of a lot more than I was willing to give up to be there. I wanted to be able to have a family and take my life in a more comfortable direction without having to worry about paying my bills down the road and not being able to enjoy my life. I didn't want to struggle forever. So
Mm-hmm.
that's when I decided to give up acting and go back to the drawing board, found hair, went to my first hair show in I think 2003 while I was in cosmetology school. It was the ISSE show
Mm-hmm.
in Long Beach. And oh my gosh, stages. I wanted to be on there. I saw these guys on like the Rusk stage and they're throwing hair and they're like rock stars. I'm like, this is so cool. One day
Yeah.
I want to do that. But funny enough, though, I you talk about imposter syndrome. We all face imposter syndrome in our lives at different moments. Any role that we
Mm-hmm.
step into that's unfamiliar to us, or we're not sure if we're going to be able to fill the shoes that we step into, we get imposter syndrome. Whether you're a new boss, a new role, a new career, a new title, a new parent, it's like you don't know if you can do the job. So you're like, I don't know if I can do this. But the only way through
Mm-hmm.
it is through it. You gotta
You gotta
start to
go.
you gotta go and you gotta figure it out along the way. And then you have to start building undeniable proof that you are who you are trying to be. And that way you can finally
Mm-hmm.
have that belief that like, okay, I am this person. Even though I still feel like a teenage kid, late into my 40s, I know that I can do certain things, and you start to lose that imposter syndrome. But I think also as achievers, we are always trying to get to that next level, and because we're doing that, we're always stepping into uncomfortable situations, which means we're going to have more and more imposter syndrome. I'm going a lot of segues here, but I got into hair, and although I wanted to be on the stage, this was before social media. This is 20 years ago, before all these incredible opportunities. And if you wanted to have this incredible free lifestyle as a hairstylist or a stage artist, you had to work for one of these massive companies, and you had to
Mm-hmm.
hopefully have been with that company for a while to work yourself through all the red tape and to get that opportunity to get on stage. And once you were that stage guy, you were that stage guy. The only other way to really make a name for yourself was to be a celebrity hairdresser. And
Mm-hmm.
how hard is that? It's pretty darn hard. Not only do you have to be talented, but you need to have connections. You can't become insta famous because there was no Instagram. There was, I guess, MySpace, but that really wasn't something that we could use to
Yeah.
help propel our careers. So I didn't see the potential, and I was living paycheck to paycheck for years after I graduated cosmetology school. And I got to a point where I somebody I really cared about and somebody that I actually loved, she said, "You're just a hairstylist. You're never going to make any money. You're never going to be able to support a family." Basically saying that like she told me I need to get a new job,
Mm-hmm.
and because I was brought up in with this mentality in like the 80s, the 90s, it's like you got to man up. I
Yeah.
decided, okay, I'm not going to let something like this affect me, I need to throw my ego to the side and be a man and find a real job, because I didn't think hairstyling was a real job. At least not, I didn't have that vision yet.
Yeah.
So what I ended up doing was I quit. I quit doing hair, and this was in '07, and I got a corporate job. And I got in the car and I went to the office at 7 in the morning, got home about 7 at night. And I did that for about 3, 4, 5 months. And I had a salary, but I absolutely hated my life. I got depressed. I got even more anxious than I was at that time. And I felt like a drone. I felt like I was living that office space kind of a life. If you've seen that movie, you know, it's just like you're a robot, a cog in a machine, just going through the motions every single day, working for the weekend. And it was such a terrible feeling. And the idea of how do you get ahead in that world, you don't. You don't get ahead, not quickly anyway. I mean, if you're working for a big company, I mean, there are ladders that you have to climb and everybody's fighting to get to that next level. And you can't really create a life of freedom anytime soon. You wait until you retire, and hopefully you have a few good years left in you to sit on that rocking chair and eat foods you want to eat. So I did that, and I just got to a point where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't. So I quit, and I was at that point I was actually bankrupt. I had spent so much money trying to find happiness,
everybody
really
else,
satisfy other people, and try to find my own happiness. And I was drinking a lot. I was not taking care of myself. I was finding ways to cope that were very unhealthy. And one of those was spending a lot of money. And one of those was drinking almost every night. So I got to a point where I'm like, I'm down and out. I'm in the worst place I've ever been in my life. And I'm faking happiness every single day, saying like, oh, I'm just living the free life. But I'm living on a floor. I was living on a blow up mattress. I was recycling cans for money because I didn't have anything. Thankfully, I met somebody who saw this fire in me that it was still kind of barely lit. And he was significantly older than me. He was I don't know, probably about 15 years, 20 years older than me, and became more of a father figure, somebody that I kind of needed. I lost my father when I was 13, and I feel like I have that missing piece where he was there for a while and was great, but I needed him after that. And I didn't have that. So I was kind of searching for father figures in a weird way. And I found him, and he's like, I see my younger self in you. I hate the way you're feeling right now, and I want to kind of take you under my wing and show you some things. And he introduced me to the world of online marketing and self-improvement and these different growth coaches. And I was very familiar with Tony Robbins. I would go to the self-help section for decades before that, looking for things and ways to improve my life. So it's something I've always been very passionate about. But he introduced me to online marketing and writing copy and online courses. And he opened my eyes to just this incredible picture, this big picture idea, this vision that I never had before. And it came down to do what you love and find a way to make money doing it, sharing it with more people, becoming the best at what you do. And I took a hard look at myself and I said, I really loved doing hair. I just didn't see the potential. But now with this new picture, this new vision I have, I can take what I'm learning now with online marketing, with becoming an expert in my field, and take that and move it into the hair industry. And it can't hurt. I had nothing else. So I decided to do that and got really, really serious about doing hair, way more than I was before, but back then it was like, you just sit around and wait for clients to walk in the door. You're reading your InStyle magazines and you're just hoping, somebody says, hey, we got a client for you. And you're like, oh, great. I got one today, kind of a feeling. And hopefully in 3 years, you'll have a full clientele that you never, ever want to leave. So I decided to really take ownership of my success and my future. And I hit the ground running, and I had 0 clients at the time because I hadn't done hair in years. I had to take a part-time job at Starbucks just to help fuel this journey. So I was working about 35 hours a week there. which was really tough. That's a hard job. I don't know if you've ever worked at
Yeah.
Starbucks. That's
Yeah.
a
And doing hair on the
yeah,
side
right.
too,
And
right? Yeah.
I'd go to my hair job, and but instead of sitting down, I would actually I designed all these marketing tactics to build up my reputation on Yelp, and I was booth renting at the time, and I just had all these different systems that I was trying to figure out which is going to work best. I was taking all that spaghetti and I was throwing it against the wall, seeing what was going to stick, and focus on what was sticking. It's like the ready, fire, aim method that I was working on. And whatever was working, I was like, okay, I'm going to do more of that. And within about a year and a half, I was one of the top rated salons in San Diego. And it was just me. I was booth renting. And these other businesses that hadn't focused on their Yelp reputation, that hadn't taken the time to create these marketing strategies, fell behind because they were stagnant. They weren't asking for reviews. They didn't have any marketing techniques to stay ahead. And little old me, who was just creating this new business, I went from within a year and a half, I went from $0 income to making over 225,000 a year doing that. And I was like, okay, that's life changing. Pretty quickly.
Definitely.
I'm doing something right. So I just
I can quit my
I quit my Starbucks job. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the day. That was like one of the happiest days of my life because I did as long as I could until I felt comfortable to just sever the cord. And I think I quit after about 7 months where I'm like, okay, I just got to focus 100% on hair now. It's still scary, but I'm just going to rip my hair out if I do this double split shift any longer. So I did it and I was like, yes, I'm free. And then it was go, go, go. And then I continued to grow my business, ended up opening a small salon shortly thereafter. And this is probably from like 2012 to 2015 or so. So that 3 years, I was just really focusing on just making sure that I had a growing business. And at that time, when business was really, really good and I wasn't worried about money coming in, I'm like, okay, I really had still been following the Brendan Burchards and the Tony Robbins and all these other online copywriters and online marketing gurus. And I'm like, I really want to do something with that. Still not the right time yet. I'm not really sure what to focus on, but I got really good at balayage and I was starting to focus on that as my niche. And I really wanted to educate. So I felt like nobody was giving me opportunities. I reached out to all the big companies and they were courteous, but they said, yeah, you can apply to be, an ambassador and you can work your way up toward that. And maybe in 5 to 10 years, you might get that opportunity. I'm like, I'm getting older. I am not going to waste my time. I'm going to build my own dang stage. So I decided, okay, you know what? Let's create something bigger than myself, something that I can even work toward. And I came up with Masters of Balayage. And just when I wrote that name on a piece of paper, I was like, whoa, that's big. That's big, because not only is it just like a company that I'm creating, it's I'm calling us masters. I'm calling myself a master, and talk about imposter syndrome and trying to step into the shoes of like, okay, I got to get in front of people and they got to think I'm a master. So holy crap, I got to get good really, really fast. And then we created the Masters of Balayage page, or I created the mob page on Instagram. And once that started taking off, and it was honestly, I was posting, it was started out as a feature page, and we still feature many artists. We try to find unknown artists or people that aren't quite in the mainstream yet, give them kind of an opportunity in the spotlight. But I was posting work that I was drawn to, and work that I didn't think that I could even compete with. It was my Pinterest board. It was kind of like my vision board. Like one day I want to be able to post my own work on this page. And I want to do it sooner than later, or nobody's going to take me seriously when I teach classes.
Say I'm a master.
Yeah, right. So I remember that first day, that first time where I'm like, okay, my work is good enough now to post. And I I posted my own work on the page, and I was just like, pins and needles. Is anybody gonna like it? Or people are gonna be like, you're full of crap. Who are you? Who do you think you are? And of course, there's always gonna be those people. But I did it, and that was my first big step into cracking my own imposter syndrome on being not only like a CEO of a company, but being a master at what I do. And that was the birth of Mob. And shortly thereafter, I'm like, well, balayage is kind of our niche. I want to create a course around this. We launched our first course in 2017 and continue to add and evolve and stay current,
Mm-hmm.
so that we're always moving ahead. And here we are today with incredible. We've got products. We're coming out with a color line next year where we've got our big hero events. We've got our online education. It's exhausting, but it's
Hey,
awesome.
yeah, but it's awesome. And you've got like close to 1 million followers on Instagram on Masters of Balayage page. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. All starting from like, working at Starbucks part-time, living on a mattress, having all the things, and now look at everything you've created. That's so awesome.
Right. And I have to give a big shout out to my wife who ended up quitting her job to help out with Masters of Balayage because she saw that I couldn't handle it. She also saw that I wasn't making it very pretty.
She needed to put her touch on it. Yeah.
She's like, your audience is 90% female. She's like, it's got to have that. It's just got to be current and beautiful and pretty and touchable in a way. And you're just making everything like super manly and techy. And she's like, that's not going to appeal to your audience. The reason it's as beautiful as it is with all of our designs and ads and websites and everything, that's all her. She gets pissed when I create something without her knowledge. She's like, did you?
She's like, no, I need to fix
She's
that.
like, just. I'm like, I didn't want to bother you. She's like, don't do that again.
bother me so that I can help it look better.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I feel like the one thing that you said there that really like resonated is when you said that you finally put your work on the page and you remember like sitting there watching it like nervous as anything, and then you said that's how kind of you stepped in front of the imposter syndrome, which I feel like is something that I always am talking about the first time that I put my face on my page.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was just a hair page for years.
Mm-hmm.
Like now you'd have to scroll back for forever because I've been doing it now, putting my face on there for a couple of years, but I didn't do it for probably 3. And the first day that I did, I was just like you. I was sitting there on my phone like, what if someone laughs at me? What if someone makes fun of this? Like, I don't have long, thick hair. Like, what if someone hates it? And then each time it just gets easier. So I feel like, that just really stuck out to me out of all that.
Yeah, it's the same thing with even doing a podcast. Those first several podcast episodes. I mean, I don't know how many technical glitches you had or how awkward it was when you're trying to, I don't know if you've always done interviews or if you actually have you done some yourself? Because I started doing it myself and
it's really weird doing it yourself.
I couldn't say a sentence without flubbing it, or I was like cutting and cutting and cutting, and I sounded like a robot. I didn't sound like I had any personality. It was a lot harder than I thought. And I'm like, people are going to think I suck.
And now the solo episodes are like, I have a lot more notes in front of me when I record those than just a back and forth conversation, because number one, I'm like, am I even making sense? Number two, I'm like, does anyone even care about this? And I feel like my audience is kind of a mix of hairstylists and consumers. And so I feel like I have to resonate with both. So I'm kind of finding that balance in between the two, which is, a pressure. It puts pressure on me. And I'm already someone who's really hard on myself as is, which I feel like anyone, whether they're in the hair industry or not, can relate to that.
Right.
And I love talking to other people who have like done amazing things and they still admit that they deal with the anxiety and the
Every
fear
day.
too.
There's days you wake up and you're just like, I want to quit. And other days you're like, this is the best
too
day
much
ever. Right.
For anyone listening, like I'm so, we've never met in person because I was supposed to go to the hero retreat this year. And just that is the exact day that all my blood sugar stuff started happening. And now I'm like, can't wait for next year because I'm going to get it under control. Like I'm spending this whole calendar year being intentional with my health so that I can be there, because I was so bummed out. Like it was the day before and I was just so bummed out that I didn't get to be there.
Yeah, you were missed for sure. It's funny, not funny that you say about the blood sugar, but that happened to me about 2 years ago, where you look at me on the outside and I'm like, look healthy. I work out a fair amount. I look like I shouldn't have any health problems. And I went to get I've been good about yearly physicals, and I went and got a yearly physical, and they're like, whoa, your blood sugar is like kind of off the map. Like what happened? She's like, I'm kind of want to put you on blood pressure medication and this stuff. And I'm like, once you're on it, it's like, you're on it for life. You need it for life. It's one of those things like you can't go back. And I was like, I don't want to do that. She's like, you're close to pre-diabetic. And my dad, he passed from diabetes, and I just know how terrible of a disease that is. And I didn't want to have to do that. So I want to say, like, give me 2 months. I'm going to see what I can do to try to correct this on my own. And I got super
Mm-hmm.
focused on, like, what do I need to eat? What do I need to do? I started doing all of the things to see what was going to work. I even got one of those, like, health monitors where you, like, diabetic monitors where you shoot it into your skin and it gives you real reading. That was painful as heck. It tells you, like, when
Mm-hmm.
you're spiking, when you're not spiking, what's affecting you, when it's not. And I went back about 3 months later, and I'm just like, fingers crossed. She's like, I don't know what you did, but it's normal. It's like, you are in the normal range.
Oh,
This is the
good.
best it's been in 4 years. Because I was on this, like, steep
Mm-hmm.
climb with my blood sugar,
Mm-hmm.
and it just got to a point where she's freaking out. She's like, I want to put you on something, like, I don't know what happened to you. Because doctors are so prescribed, and they
Yeah.
don't want anything bad to happen to you, especially under their care or watch.
Well, and like you said, diabetes is like real, you don't
Right.
mess with it. So you didn't take
I didn't
the
take the
medication?
medication. I was like a last resort. I wanted to
Okay.
see what I could do on my own. And I got crazy with the fasting. I was doing like 16 eights, I think, fast for 16 hours, eat for 8 hours, and really focused on that.
Mm-hmm.
Ate a lot more fiber, watched it. Quit the drinking. I was
That's what
smoking a
I'm
lot of
doing.
pot, and I quit smoking pot. I changed kind of everything, and
Yep.
it changed everything.
This is
Yeah.
like great news for me because they just tried to put me on diabetes medicine too, because I guess my levels are pre-diabetic. I don't eat well. I'm a sugar addict. And today is day 5 where I haven't had any
Hmm.
candy or carbs. And I'm like, I mean, I had a little
Hmm.
sugar with fruit, but I haven't had any candy. And I'm like a
Sure.
candy 5 times a day
Right, right,
person
right.
usually. And like you said, I don't look like the stereotypical person who might struggle with their health, but that doesn't mean inside everything was normal.
Hmm. Right.
Everything was all messed up. So it gives me hope to know that you didn't take the medication, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but
And at least correct that and see if it makes a difference. And if it does, fantastic. If you can
Mhm.
push off whatever's going to happen to us in the future a little bit longer, that's great.
Yeah, because they were like, you should be in the hospital.
Yeah.
Like, this is so high. Like, you should be in
Hmm.
ICU. And I'm like,
Right.
what? I was like, they were like, do you not feel bad? And I'm like,
Hmm.
no, I feel normal. And they're like, wow, that's
Right.
even
Well, what's
scarier.
also scary is how normalized it is. How many people are on it in the country?
Uh-huh.
How many family members we might actually have on it? I talked to my brother and my mom about this. I said, really high, and she's like, yeah, it runs high in our family. And I was just thinking of, like,
Hmm.
but why? Like, I think we get so used to saying, like, it just runs in our family.
Yeah, we don't try to
We don't
break
try to
it.
break it. I'm like, screw that. I'm going to see what I can do. I'm going to try to break the
Same.
generational pattern here and see if there is something that I can do. Because you hear about these incredible kind of Tim Ferriss moments all the time about, like, biohacks and things. And we've just been fed this bullshit American pyramid diet for so long. And the foods that are given to us are awful, awful overprocessed foods. If you want to eat healthy, it's really hard and it's really expensive.
It's
Yeah.
difficult. Yep.
And we don't even know what to eat. I heard spinach was bad for you the other day. I heard it, we can't digest it. It's got some chemicals in it.
Like, I don't even know what to
Yeah.
believe. I don't know what source to believe, because the next article I
Mm.
scroll down and see
Right.
contradicts what I just read. But I feel like you saying that we just believe the generational, it runs in our family. We just accept it. And something, I don't know when you posted this, but you said, like, I'm going to break this cycle with showing love to my family and to my
Yeah.
kids.
Hmm.
And that is exactly like so many parallels, I feel like, with me and you, because I say that all the time. Like, no, it doesn't matter if it runs in the family. Like, I'm not going to do
Right.
that. And people are always like, well, Samantha, you don't have kids yet. So how can you say what you're going to do? And it's like, because I'm
Right.
passionate about
Right.
not
And
doing
it starts with
that.
the mindset now. If you don't have that mindset now, if you're just
Mhm.
like, I'll just see what happens when it happens, you need to kind of start to build that willpower ahead of time, so that when it actually comes, then
Mhm.
then you know where you want to go. You have a direction at least, and you can figure it out as you go. But at least you're starting to get clear on what you want in your life, how you want to live your life, and what you want it to be about. Most of us go through life completely not even questioning anything. We just go with the flow. We're sheep instead
Yeah.
of trying to carve our own
Yeah.
path and take control of our future to the best that we can. Life is going to do what it does, but we
Mhm.
have a say in it, and we can prolong
Mhm.
our own health as long as possibly can with the hand of cards that we're given. But there
Mm-hmm.
is something that we can do about it. And if nothing else, a strong mindset, a positive mindset can only help you.
Yeah. And if I'm not the person who stops it, I'm at least stopping the pattern. So, like, maybe one day if I ever have kids, like, they'll see the change in me and then they'll change it even more. And it'll just keep going down the line because it's like, I just have a problem accepting, like, just because that's what you're
Right.
supposed to do. Like, I just can't grasp doing that. But I'm curious, like, because one thing I do struggle with is wishing I would have done things sooner. So, like, I had to go through a crazy divorce to be like, you know what? I don't even care what
Mm-hmm.
people think about me. But you had said earlier that someone told you hairstylists couldn't be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you ever like think back to the time where you kind of took a detour? Do you ever be like, I wish I wouldn't have had to do that?
Absolutely, all the time. I mean, I think back, I wish I
Okay.
didn't screw off in my 20s. I wish I had started earlier. But I think we're lucky to have arrived when we arrived. Some people never arrive where they are or with those types of hopes and dreams. So for all that to have happened, I mean, I see all these people that are like in their 30s and they're multimillionaires. You're like, gosh, I wish I would had done that. But I wouldn't have the stories. I
You,
wouldn't have it would be just a different journey. I wouldn't be able to share all those in between moments, and I would probably be a dick
yeah, you wouldn't have the
because
experience.
I've grown a lot since my 20s when I was cocky for no reason, and I had an ego that was bloated for no reason. I had nothing to show for it, but I felt like I had to kind of overshadow what I didn't accomplish by acting like a big deal, right? I think we struggle with that, trying to put ourselves on a pedestal as we see all our other friends succeed in their jobs and they're getting salaries and we're not because we're hairdressers or artists or whatever the connection is there. So we find ways to cope with that.
No, like we have to act mean. I was the same way. Like anyone who went to high school with me, like I still get like intimidated to see them because I was just such a
Um,
jerk. Like, and I don't even know
right.
why. And people would always tell me, like, stop being so rude. And I'm like, no, like I'm not being rude. This is just who I am, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, actually who I am is a very nice
Mhm.
person who has a lot of empathy and compassion. I'm not this mean, like walled up person I pretended to be, but I was so insecure
Mhm.
back then. And I feel like the day that we all just kind of wake up and realize that like who we truly are is like we're that way for a reason. We need to share that with the world and not try to hide behind
Especially
stuff.
in the day of the influencer where people are very Jekyll and Hyde. You show one face on Instagram and another face at home. I feel like there are times when I struggle with that too, and my wife will be the first one to call me out. She's like, you show up for everybody else online. You're always happy, you're always positive. You need to show more. It's not always sunshine and
Right.
strawberries. It's there's tough moments. And life is very challenging. And being a parent is very hard. Being in a relationship is very hard. Running a business, very hard.
And I think too that like all the stuff you share and just like it reaches a whole new audience than people who just are there to see beautiful hair because it makes you real, it
Right.
shows that you're a real human, which obviously we're all real humans, but sometimes people forget that when they look at this aesthetic feed with all these followers and they're like, well, they don't have issues. And it's like, no, trust
Mm.
me. We like I have a lot of issues every single day. And I think that just drawing attention to that, that's what like my whole goal is with the podcast is just to show people that it's okay to admit like any struggles that you
Right.
have.
And if you're somebody that wants to improve your life, like you are, like I am, like the people that we try to connect with are, they're trying to improve their life in some way. You are going to have struggles. You're going to have hard days. You're going to have those moments of insecurity, and it's challenging. There's always going to be people to be a bully online, to hide behind their own authenticity and be a jerk and put a face on that's not friendly. That's the easy way. The easy
Mhm.
way is to be a jerk and try to tear other people down and to build yourself up, but you're only going to surround yourself with other people that have hate-filled hearts.
Yeah, and the people you surround yourself with are so freaking important.
Right, right, right. Yeah, you are the people that you surround yourself with. And the hardest thing in any
Mhm.
type of business like what we do, if we're trying to influence, if we're trying to inspire and educate, is we want to reach everybody. we, we, we
Mhm.
get so butthurt if like one person doesn't like us or has something bad to say about us. And it's just like, what did I do wrong? What did I
On
do
that one
wrong?
thing.
But it
Yeah.
doesn't matter about the countless other people that you've helped or the lives that you've changed. It's that one person. You're just like, I wanted to reach everybody. I wanted to have that perfect scorecard, which is it's not going to happen.
Cool.
And one thing somebody told me that just really made a lot of sense was those people that they're not that ready yet. They're not ready to change. They're not at that level. So they can't see it from you because they haven't been honest with themselves about who they want to be. And maybe they'll never reach that level. So focus on who you can help and make that your continued mission.
Yeah. And if you're like, I don't know, I know that it's easier said than done to like eliminate people that aren't supportive of you, but like, do you have advice for anyone who may like have this person in their mind as they're listening and be like, I know I need to get away from this person, but they're close to me, maybe their family or a boyfriend or whatever. Do you have tips to encourage them to maybe take the first step to not blow it up, so to speak?
I would just say spend less time or spend less energy. You don't have to necessarily spend, if you're around them and you can't avoid that, if they're a family member or something, you live with them, or it's a roommate or something, just give them less energy, give them less of your time, less of your presence, because it's not worth it. You need to focus on what's going to help you grow, what's going to help fuel your mission. And those naysayers, those people that dig at you, and there are some people digging at me right now, and all of us at different times. It's not all sunshine. There's plenty of things that are always nagging, especially as your audience grows. You're going to have those one-off people that kind of want to make your life miserable for no reason, just because they're probably trying to make up for them not being successful, or hide that and say like, well, you should be doing this with that. You make all this money and it's just funny how things get so twisted, because money makes the world go round, and money, what it does is it actually enhances the person that you really are inside. So people that are jerks, people that will give them a lot of money, they're going to be bigger jerks, right? If they're bullies, they're going to be bigger bullies. Somebody that's kind inside, empathetic inside, give them more money, they're going to help more people. So money is just a tool to help fuel your mission. And when your goal is to grow a business and connect with more people, you're going to be able to put on these big events. You're going to be able to offer more life-changing courses. You're going to be able to employ more people that are going to be able to give their families a better life. And people are just so quick to judge. And right now, I think at this time in the world, judgment is at an all-time high. People are really struggling, and we have to have empathy around that. But at the same time, we need to protect ourselves and protect our energy in our own circles too. So spending less energy toward that. There's people that are negative to you online. It's very easy. You just hide stories. You just hide their things. You unfollow them. That's super easy to do that. If you're in the same room, you can have a talk. It's kind of like going back to, if you have a negative client, how do you either fire them or make them want to leave without having a big to do about it? And the best way is going back to kill it with kindness. When somebody comes to you and be like, oh, so-and-so is a real jerk to me, or this person cut me off, and it's like that it's not just like a one-off thing. If there's just like a totally negative person that just brings all that darkness into your salon, you just don't let that darkness loose. You just battle it with the light. You battle it with the good. Whenever they say something negative, you just turn around and be like, oh, I just did something awesome. Or, hey, have you seen this incredible movie? Or, so-and-so had this great opportunity to travel. And oh my gosh, have you taken any amazing trips in your life? Have you done things? And if they continue to be negative, they are not going to want to be around you.
Because you're not
absorbing it, right? They need to get that off of their shoulders with somebody. And that's why people that are super negative, they need to get it off their shoulders so they feel better about themselves. It's almost like a therapy session for them. It makes them feel better about being miserable. But if you don't give them that opportunity, that outlet, you don't have to fire them. They just won't come back.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, people may not realize it, but like, even if it's that one client in the salon and they're still coming every 6-8 weeks, whatever, that little bit of that negativity stays with you a lot longer than I think you realize, and you don't think of it in the moment because you're like, get them in, get them out, move on. I'm not going to be negative at home. But really, it's just living in your brain rent free for a little bit, whether you want it to or not, subconsciously. And yeah, I totally agree with that if you're just happy and positive and just shut it down right away, like they have nothing to go back to.
Absolutely.
And they might go back and forth with you for a minute, but like the third or fourth time you cut it down with positive, they're going to be like, okay, well, Ryan's not going to talk shit with me today. He's going to
take control of the conversation.
Cut this down every time.
Yeah, you take control of the conversation. And if they continue to try to boss over you, then you just have to say, look, this is not okay. You know?
Yeah. And I love what you said about money too, about like good people. It brings out who you truly are. And I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that. So as you were talking, I was like, wow, I was thinking of a few people, what they would do if they had a lot of money. And that's totally true. 100%.
My wife, I guess her parents would say, when you get to know somebody in a relationship, before you like say get married or take the next step, it's like you need to know who they are sober, and you have to know who they are drunk, because it just enhances who they are, and if you're a real negative person and you give somebody alcohol, it's like, oh gosh, watch out. It could be scary, but if they're really happy and go lucky all the time and you enhance that with, a little bit of alcohol, I mean, more times than not, they'll probably be like even happier and goofier.
Giving you hugs and
yeah,
stuff.
lovey-dovey.
Yeah. You got to see how they respond to tangled up Christmas lights. I feel like that's the quote I've seen everywhere. Like, watch how someone responds when the lights are straight and when the lights are tangled.
Right.
So true.
I love that. Yeah, it's great.
I feel like we've covered so many different things on this episode, and I feel like they were all exactly what I had in mind to talk about today. And so, I mean, just thank you again for coming on here and just telling your story and showing people that it's okay to have struggles and it's okay to have worries and concerns and imposter syndrome. And hey, also, it's okay if you admit that out loud on a podcast to the person you're talking to, like I did at the beginning.
Right.
So it's all going to be okay. And we just have to be our true selves always. So is there anything you want to plug before we end the episode today?
I would love for you to give me a follow if you could at Ryan.Weeden. I throw a lot of good tidbits out there, and anything that's happening with our business, you'll find out there. But I hope to inspire you with my messages and stories and reels and everything else in between, as well as give you a real authentic taste of who I am and what it really takes to be successful. All the good along with all the bad.
Okay, y'all, that's it for today's episode. Be sure to follow the show on whatever platform you're listening and leave a rating and review to show your support so we can continue growing together. If today's episode really resonated with you, you can always share it to your story and be sure to tag me so I can personally thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll talk to you again next week.